If someone told me that love could turn into betrayal so sharp it could slice through your soul, I would have laughed. Because how could love, the kind that raises, feeds, and forgives, ever turn cruel? But I learned the hard way that sometimes betrayal doesn't come from enemies, it comes from your own blood. My name is Martha Wilkins, and I'm 73 years old. I've lived through wars, recessions, sickness, and yet nothing has ever broken me like what my daughter did. I wasn't born into comfort. I came from a tiny town in Ohio where winters froze the pipes and summers made the walls sweat. My father was a mechanic, my mother a seamstress. We didn't have much, but we had honesty. That's what I built my life on, honesty and hard work. I became a nurse when I was 20. Long nights, double shifts, sore feet, but I loved my job. I met Thomas, my husband, at the hospital. He was a young doctor then, calm and kind, with a smile that made the world seem softer. We built a quiet, steady life together. We never chased luxury, just peace. When our daughter Clara was born, she became our world. She had her father's eyes, gentle, clever, but full of mischief. From the moment she could talk, she was ambitious. She'd say things like, "Mom, I'll buy you a big house one day. You'll never have to work again." And I'd smile, kiss her forehead, and whisper, "I don't need a big house, sweetheart. Just you." Thomas passed away 15 years ago. Cancer, the quiet thief. I lost the love of my life, but Clara became my reason to go on. She held my hand at the funeral and said, "Mom, I'll take care of you now. Dad would want that." I believed her. Why wouldn't I? She was my daughter, my only child. After retiring, I sold our big family home. It was too empty, too full of ghosts. I moved into a modest little house closer to Clara. The sale, combined with my savings, pension, and investments over the years, added up to almost $4 million. Money I had never imagined I'd save. Money that represented decades of sacrifice. Every night shift, every skipped vacation, every penny I ever tucked away for her future. Clara seemed happy to have me nearby. She'd visit often with her husband Greg, always carrying flowers or some fancy dessert. I'd cook her favorite stew and listen to her stories about business trips, new projects, and dreams of a better life. She had a charm about her, always did. When she spoke, people listened, and I was always her biggest listener. Then, one evening, everything began to change. It was a Wednesday, cold, gray, with rain drumming on the window. I had just finished knitting a blanket for her when she arrived, cheeks flushed, a nervous smile plastered on her face. "Mom," she said softly, setting her bag on the table, "I need to talk to you about something important." Her tone made me set my tea down. "What is it, dear? Are you and Greg all right?" She laughed, but it didn't reach her eyes. "Yes, yes, we're fine. It's just, I've been offered an opportunity, a real business deal, Mom, a property investment, and it's huge." I raised an eyebrow. Property investment? That sounds risky. She moved closer, taking my hand like she used to when she was a little girl. "Mom, listen, this isn't a scam. It's with real investors, a housing project in California. I've been working with them for months, but I need one last investor to secure the deal. Once it's done, I'll get double returns, and so will you. We could both live comfortably for the rest of our lives." I hesitated. "Clara, honey, that's a lot of responsibility. I'm not sure I understand all of this." She squeezed my hand tighter. "Mom, I'd never let anything bad happen to you. You know that, right? You trust me, don't you?" Those words, "You trust me, don't you?" pierced right through the wall of caution I'd built around my heart. Of course I trusted her. She was my daughter, my only daughter. She came back the next day with a folder full of papers, contracts, documents with complicated words. I didn't understand much, but I saw her name printed right next to mine. It's just a joint investment agreement, she explained, standard procedure. I hesitated again, my pen hovering. She smiled, that same warm smile she'd worn since childhood. Mom, this is for both of us, for our future. And I signed. The transfer happened the next morning. All $4 million moved into a new joint account that she said was for investment tracking. I remember she hugged me tightly afterward. "You won't regret this, Mom," she whispered. "I promise you, you'll be proud." She left that evening, driving away in the rain, waving from her car window. I watched her taillights fade, my heart warm and full. I even whispered to Thomas's photograph on the mantle, "Our little girl's doing so well. You'd be proud." For the first time in years, I felt like I had a purpose again, helping my daughter succeed, seeing her dreams come true. But 2 weeks later, the phone calls stopped. The texts went unanswered. Her visits, gone. At first, I told myself she was just busy. Then I tried calling Greg, no answer. Then her office. They told me she'd quit. The worry grew until one morning I went to the bank. The teller's expression changed when she pulled up my account. "Mrs. Wilkins," she said gently, "it seems all your funds were withdrawn last week." I blinked. "What? Withdrawn? By whom?" She hesitated, then lowered her voice. "By your daughter, Mrs. Clara Wilkins." The world tilted. It felt like the ground cracked beneath me. I stumbled home, the air cold and cruel. The house felt empty, the silence too loud. And that's when I saw it, an envelope tucked under my door. My name written in her handwriting. My heart pounded as I tore it open. One small piece of paper. Just a few words. "Mom, please don't try to find me. I needed this. You've lived your life. It's my turn now. Goodbye." I read it again and again until the ink blurred through my tears. $4 million gone. My daughter gone. My heart shattered. That night, I sat on the couch, surrounded by everything I had built, and felt smaller than I ever had before. Because what do you do when your child, the one you gave everything to, decides you're worth nothing at all? The days after Clara's letter felt unreal, like I was living inside a dream I couldn't wake up from. Except dreams end. This didn't. Each morning, I'd wake up expecting to hear her voice, her cheerful, "Good morning, Mom," echoing through the house. Instead, there was only silence. The kind of silence that feels alive, crawling up the walls, wrapping around your throat, and whispering, "She's gone." I sat in the kitchen every morning, staring at her empty cup across the table, the one she always used, chipped on the handle with faded pink flowers. I couldn't bring myself to wash it. It sat there like a ghost, a reminder of the love I once believed was unbreakable. I called her again and again. Each time, the same voice answered. "The number you are trying to reach is currently unavailable." I left messages, dozens of them. "Clara, please call me back. We can fix this. Honey, I don't care about the money. I just want to know you're safe. Please, Clara, don't shut me out." But she never did. Eventually, I stopped dialing. The pain of hearing that robotic voice was worse than the silence. Weeks turned into months. Bills piled up. The pension that once seemed enough now felt like a drop in the ocean. I sold small things, jewelry, furniture, even Thomas's old watch. Every piece I sold felt like erasing another part of my past. I told the neighbors I was downsizing. I couldn't bring myself to tell them the truth. Because how do you explain to someone that your own daughter robbed you? That she looked you in the eyes and lied, not for survival, but for greed? At night, I'd sit by the window, watching the streetlights blur through my tears. I'd think about every moment we'd shared: her first birthday, her first heartbreak, her wedding day. Every memory now felt poisoned. I replayed it all. Every conversation, every word, every sign I might have missed. There were hints, I realize now. Tiny cracks I ignored. The expensive clothes she suddenly wore. The car she said Greg's company gave her. The stress in her eyes when I'd ask too many questions. She had been slipping away long before the money ever vanished. And I, blinded by love, didn't see it. One afternoon, I gathered the courage to visit her house. It was across town, a tall white building with glass balconies and manicured lawns, the kind of house that screams success. But when I got there, it was empty. The curtains drawn, the door locked, a for sale sign staked in the yard. A neighbor watering her plants noticed me. "Oh, they moved out 2 months ago," she said. "In a hurry, too. Heard something about California." California. Just like she said in her investment story. I thanked the woman, even though my throat felt like it was closing. On the drive home, my hands shook on the steering wheel. I was 73 years old, alone and broke, chasing the ghost of my daughter through a city that didn't care. That night, I opened the letter again, the same cruel line staring back at me. "You've lived your life. It's my turn now." What kind of world was this, where a child could discard a mother like an old coat? I didn't sleep. I sat in the dark until the morning light crept in, dust floating through the air like quiet sorrow. Weeks later, I got a call from Detective Harris, a kind man with a gruff voice. He had been assigned to my fraud report. "Mrs. Wilkins," he said, "we've traced the bank transfers. The funds went through multiple accounts, all under shell companies, but one lead stands out: a real estate purchase in Los Angeles under the name Clara Investments, LLC. My heart sank. So she used my money to buy property? He sighed. "It appears so. A luxury penthouse, paid in full. $4 million. My daughter turned my life's work, my sacrifice, my love, into a penthouse apartment." "Can you arrest her?" I asked, voice trembling. He hesitated. "It's complicated, Mrs. Wilkins. You signed those documents willingly. Unless we can prove deception or coercion, it's a civil issue, not a criminal one." I wanted to scream, to cry, to beg, but all I could whisper was, "She's my daughter. Why would she do this?" His tone softened. "Sometimes, ma'am, greed blinds even good people." After that, something inside me broke. I stopped cooking. I stopped knitting. The garden withered. It wasn't just the money. It was trust, faith, motherhood itself that felt stolen from me. I had raised her with love, not luxury. I taught her kindness, not cunning. So where had I gone wrong? One evening, I found myself at the old church Thomas and I used to visit. The candles flickered against the stained glass, painting the walls in soft blues and gold. I sat in the back pew, clutching my rosary, and whispered, "If I failed as a mother, please forgive me. If I loved too much, forgive me for that too." A quiet tear rolled down my cheek, and for the first time in months, I let myself grieve, not for the money, but for the daughter I had lost long before the theft. That night, as I walked home, the wind carried a chill that felt familiar. Loneliness has a sound, a soft, hollow echo that follows you everywhere. But I also felt something else stirring beneath the grief, a faint flicker. Not anger, not hatred, but a fragile resolve. If Clara could walk away from everything I gave her, then maybe it's time I learned how to stand without her. Maybe, just maybe, I could rebuild, not for her, but for me. Because if she took everything I owned, I wouldn't let her take what I am. Months had passed since Clara disappeared, and yet it still felt like it happened yesterday. The mornings were the hardest. The light would spill through the curtains, soft and golden, the kind that once made me feel alive. Now it only reminded me of everything gone: my home, my savings, and my trust. I used to be the woman who planned her days, who made grocery lists, baked bread, and checked her investments with quiet pride. Now I was just surviving. The world outside my window didn't care. People hurried past with coffees in hand, laughing, rushing to jobs, chasing dreams. And I, the woman who once helped others as a nurse, who raised a daughter alone after losing her husband, sat by the window counting the hours until nightfall. But grief can't live forever without turning into something else. And one morning, after spilling tea on the floor and breaking into tears over nothing at all, I realized if I didn't do something, I'd drown in my own sorrow. So I stood up. I took a deep breath, and I made a list, a small one this time. Visit the bank. Check on the church food drive. Call Detective Harris for updates. It wasn't much, but it was a start. At the bank, the clerk smiled politely, but avoided my eyes when she saw my account. The balance was pitiful now, just a few thousand left from my pension. Still, I walked out of there feeling strangely lighter. I had faced it. At the church, I helped sort canned food for the needy. The irony wasn't lost on me. I once wrote checks to these programs. Now I was the one volunteering for the free meal. But when I handed soup to an old man who whispered, "God bless you," with trembling lips, something in me healed just a little. And that's when I met Ruth. She was another volunteer. Gray curls, strong voice, eyes sharp as glass, but kind as the morning sun. "You look new here," she said, handing me a box. "You retired?" "Yes," I said softly, "a while ago." "Good," she smiled. "Then you've got time to help me run the kitchen." For the first time in months, I laughed. It felt foreign, like borrowing someone else's voice. Over the next few weeks, Ruth and I became close. She didn't ask about my past right away. She didn't pity me. She just treated me like I mattered. But one rainy afternoon, as we packed sandwiches for the shelter, she noticed the distant look in my eyes and asked, "What happened, Martha? You've got the kind of sadness that doesn't come from nowhere." I hesitated. Then I told her everything. Every painful detail. The investment, the letter, the empty account, the silence that followed. When I finished, she didn't speak for a long time. Finally, she said, "You know, people talk about losing money like it's the worst thing in the world. But you didn't lose money, Martha. You lost faith, and that hurts far deeper. But faith can be rebuilt." I looked at her, tears threatening to spill. How do you rebuild when your own child destroys you? "You start by remembering that her choices aren't your failures," Ruth said, "and that you still have a life, one that's yours alone." Her words clung to me like a lifeline. A week later, Detective Harris called again. "Mrs. Wilkins, I thought you should know. We located the property your daughter bought in Los Angeles, but she's no longer there." I swallowed. "What do you mean?" "She sold it, quickly. The funds were transferred to an account in another name, and that account was closed 2 months ago. We believe she's living abroad now, possibly in Europe." I closed my eyes. The image of her, Clara, smiling at me that last night, promising everything would be fine, flashed before me. "Do you want us to continue the case?" Harris asked. I paused. For the first time, I didn't feel anger, just an aching emptiness. "No," I said softly. "I think I've already lost what mattered most." After hanging up, I sat in silence for a long time. Then I stood and walked to the shelf where I kept Thomas's photo, his kind eyes frozen in time.
I did my best, Tom, I whispered. I loved her too much, maybe, but I can't chase her ghost forever. Life didn't magically become easy after that. I still cried at night, still checked my phone sometimes, half hoping for her name to appear. But the world kept spinning, and slowly I learned to walk with it again. Ruth encouraged me to join a seniors community group. I started knitting again, baking, even telling stories to the neighborhood children on weekends. My house, once silent and cold, began to feel alive again. Then, one afternoon, as I was locking up the church pantry, Ruth handed me a small envelope. "It came for you," she said. "No return address." I opened it, my hands trembling. Inside was a folded piece of paper. "Mom, I know I don't deserve forgiveness. I was lost, blinded by wanting more. The money is gone, and so is the life I thought I wanted. I'm sorry for everything. If you can ever forgive me, I'll understand if you can't. Clara." I stood there frozen, my heart pounding. Ruth placed a hand on my shoulder. "What will you do?" "I don't know," I whispered. "But maybe, this time, I'll wait for her to come home, not to apologize, but to find herself." For the first time, the tears that came were not of pain, but of release. That night, I sat by the window again. The same chair, the same view, but something had changed. The silence no longer felt like an enemy. It felt like peace. I didn't know if Clara would ever come back, but I knew one thing for sure. She hadn't taken everything. She couldn't take the strength I found in my own survival, and maybe that was worth more than $4 million ever could be. It had been almost a year since I last heard from Clara. Her letter, that single page filled with regret, had sat on my nightstand ever since. Some nights, I'd reread it, running my fingers over her handwriting, trying to hear her voice in the curves of each letter. Other nights, I'd tuck it away in a drawer, determined not to think about it again. But forgiveness is not a straight path. It's a winding road, one that hurts even as it heals. I had learned to live again. Not rich, not dependent, but alive. The church pantry had become my second home. Ruth, now more of a sister than a friend, often teased me. "You work harder than all of us, Martha. You're supposed to be retired." I'd smile. "If I stop moving, I'll start thinking. And if I start thinking, I'll start crying." She'd just nod. "Then keep moving, love, but don't forget to live." So I did. It was a quiet Thursday afternoon when everything changed. The sky outside was gray, heavy with the promise of rain. I had just returned from the market, carrying a bag of apples and bread, when I noticed a car parked in front of my small cottage. A black sedan, windows tinted, engine running. For a moment, my heart raced. I set down the groceries and stepped closer. The door opened slowly, and out stepped her, Clara. Her hair was shorter now, her face thinner, her eyes older. Eyes that once gleamed with ambition, but now looked haunted. She wore no jewelry, no designer coat, just a simple gray sweater. "Mom?" she whispered. I froze. The world tilted, memories rushing back, her laughter, her lies, her letter. "Why are you here?" My voice trembled, despite me trying to sound strong. She took a hesitant step forward. I didn't know where else to go. I stared at her. "You had 4 million places to go, Clara." Tears welled in her eyes. "I lost everything. The house, the business, the friends. I thought money would make me happy, but it ruined everything I loved, especially you." Her voice cracked. "Mom, I was wrong. I was so wrong." Something inside me, the anger, the hurt, the hollow ache, began to shake loose. I wanted to scream, to tell her how many nights I cried, how many times I almost gave up. But all that came out was a whisper. You hurt me more than anyone ever could. I know, she said, her head bowing, and I'll spend the rest of my life trying to make it right, if you'll let me. The rain started then, soft at first, then heavy, falling between us like all the unspoken years. I looked at her, my daughter, broken and lost, standing in the rain. And suddenly, I saw not the thief who betrayed me, but the little girl who once ran to me after scraping her knee, crying for comfort. Without thinking, I opened the door wider. "Come inside," I said softly. "You'll catch a cold." She hesitated, then nodded, stepping in like someone walking into a church. We sat at the table, the same table where she once shared her dreams, the same one where she'd left me with silence. Neither of us spoke for a long time. The rain filled the gaps our words couldn't reach. Finally, I said, "I don't know if I can ever forget what you did, Clara, but I can't hate you anymore. I'm tired." She looked up, tears streaking her cheeks. "Then maybe we can start over, one day at a time." I nodded slowly, one day at a time. Months passed again, but this time they carried light instead of loss. Clara found a small job nearby and started visiting every few days. She helped me in the kitchen, joined me at the church, and sometimes we'd just sit quietly together, saying nothing but saying everything. She didn't bring back my $4 million, but she brought something else, something I thought was gone forever: peace. One evening, as we watched the sunset from the porch, she whispered, "You always said life gives back what love builds, Mom. Maybe this is life giving me a second chance." I smiled faintly, squeezing her hand. "It's not life, Clara. It's grace." And as the sky turned gold, I realized I had lost fortune, comfort, and years, but I had gained something far greater: forgiveness that didn't come from money or revenge, but from the quiet, unbreakable heart of a mother. Because even when the world betrays you, love, somehow, finds its way home.